The General Synod is the senior governing body of the Church of England.
That represents, in a complicated way, bishops, clergy, laity from all across England, and where we debate and decide upon matters affecting the Church of England.
It holds the Church's bodies to account, and lots of reports and things have to come into it that we approve and question. And it enables us to make policy which is then again implemented by other bodies of the Church.
If you want to see change happen at a local level, this is where it has to happen first. If there's important things that we feel strongly about in church governance, whether it's, blessings for same-sex couples or simplification of our church rules, General Synod is where that change can happen.
When it gathers, it's a very wide representation of the church, all different opinions. There's almost nothing we will agree on, and yet somehow we discover that we're on a common journey. Indeed, if we're going to be technical about it, that's what synod means, on the way together.
There are elections held every 5 years for members of the clergy from each diocese and for members of the laity from each diocese, and there's a complicated formula to work out how many from each diocese. So if you feel passionately about the life of the church, its mission and ministry, then it's something that you should consider.
I think the first thing you have to be is resilient. I found my first 5 years really interesting, and I've heard some really important debates. I've heard quite a lot of traumatic things, and I think you have to have a really strong faith.
Somebody who actually had a real passion for the mission of the church and for how that was to happen better, more efficiently, more spiritually, and more in tune with how we believe that God is calling us to be at this present time.
I think you've got to be able to tolerate a mix of subjects. So that's the really boring legislative stuff. And I'm sorry, I do find it boring, but I stick with it because I think it's important, especially when you see it working out on the ground.
And it takes commitment, and it takes a lot of prayer, and it takes a lot of willingness to actually engage and get stuck in.
What normally happens in a debate is that if you want to say something, you've got a strong opinion about whatever's in discussion, you put in a request to speak. There's an app for it, or you can even do it on paper if apps are not your thing. And then the person who's chairing knows you've got a point to make and even the gist of what you're going to say.
I have to say that I found that if I've really passionately wanted to speak, whether there's a sort of platform can see that. The few debates I've wanted to speak in, I've been called to speak, and that's been really good. So there are opportunities to sort of make your points and join in the debates if that's what you want to do.
And you'd be surprised how much difference that makes, because they'll think of you as someone who knows about that area, perhaps particularly for us in Hereford, about the life of the rural church.
All synod reps have regular meetings before a synod, and we discuss the agenda.
We listen particularly at what happens at diocesan synod and also deanery synod.
I think it also helps to know the parishes and the places where we work, and sort of understand what some of their issues are. Try and be objective and try and look at things from all angles is a really good approach, so you don't just put your own views over.
As a parish priest, chairing APCM meetings for our PCCs and recognising that the church representation rules have recently been updated has been a big part of the work of synod, and seeing that played out at parish level, that's really made a difference.
One of the best decisions that the General Synod has made recently, or certainly since I've been on it, was the final decision to enable women to be appointed bishops. After the disappointment of 2012, when that failed, there was a real urge within Synod to actually work across the board to try and enable what was a really important ontological and missional issue to be achieved.
I think some of the work that General Synod has done around social action, so recently pressuring the government on gambling and slot machines and the limits on those, I'm really glad to have been part of Synod and part of a Synod that's been active actually out in the wider communities as well as within the church.